Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 7 on DraftKings. There's a single game showdown Monday night with a massive tournament. $2.25 million guaranteed prize pool. $1 million of that going to first place. Probably a little bit unlikely that you're going to have a unique lineup to take that down. It's probably going to be split between probably 7 and 200 people. Who knows how many? But if you can bank that by yourself, you're going to take down $1 million on DraftKings on one Monday night football slate between the Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams. The Chicago Bears traveling west to go to SoFi, the brand new stadium out here. I think it's a great looking stadium personally. It's a great place to watch the games, at least on TV. I haven't been there yet, obviously with COVID and all the things that are going on, but watching the Chargers, watching the Rams there has been really nice. So that's the best thing I can kind of say about these two teams. You guys know how I feel about Sean McVay. And if you don't know how I feel about Sean McVay, it's that I don't trust the guy. I don't know that we can really go into this game with any knowledge of which tight end is going to get the most market share of the targets. I don't know that we can say which running back is going to get the most share of the snaps and the running back rushes and everything else for the Rams. It just kind of is what it is. The Bears have been a really ugly team on offense. They should have two guys that we know where the ball is going to go. They have a couple of interesting younger players that the ball finds its way to from time to time, and defensively they're pretty solid. So there's a lot of different ways that this game can go. I'm going to break it down for you guys here. Thank you for viewing once again. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you like the video. We're trying to get 10% of the views to turn into likes, so make sure that you ring that notifications bell so that you can get notified anytime I come out with new content. Between the first channel and the second channel, I'm putting out 8, 9 videos every single week of NFL. And you guys have been tremendous with your support. So thank you very much for coming here day after day after day and clicking and replying and everything. And then obviously the vast majority of these videos, this one not, but the vast majority of these videos that go up on the YouTube channels are filmed live on Twitch. So stop by the stream any day of the week. I'm live 6 days a week during NFL. Let's go take a look at this Monday Night Football slate. So we're going to talk about the correlations and how you have to go about building lineups. I'm not here to give you which plays are the right plays. I will talk about everything, but like really, I'm trying to teach you how to build lineups. And I think that that is the most beneficial type of information that I can give you to kind of teach you how to fish for yourself. So the first thing that's going to happen, whether you're building lineups by hand, whether you're building lineups in a lineup builder, you're always going to notice that the quarterbacks are typically the most expensive players and also have the highest median projections. No matter what site you're using for projections, they've always got the highest median score because that's just what quarterbacks do. The problem is they don't have access to as high a ceiling and they don't have it for as cheap a price as some other players on the slate because of the way that quarterback scoring goes in fantasy and especially on DraftKings. So with full PPR and everything else, it's more likely that Cooper Kupp has a 40-point night, which will give you 60 in the captain spot, as opposed to Jared Goff having a 40-point night. A massive night for Jared Goff might get him 28 points. A massive night for Cooper Kupp would get him 35 or 40. So typically we want to use wide receivers and running backs in our captain spot because they end up winning showdown slates more often than quarterbacks. But it's not out of line to think that a quarterback can win. So if you're going to build a quarterback lineup at captain, you need to build a couple of correlation builds, whether you're building it by hand or whether you're doing it in a lineup builder. We're going to go over the Fantasy Labs Optimizer in just a little bit with the rules that I set, the basic rules that I set. Obviously, I set more than the basic ones, but I try to give you a starting point of where to jump off from. So in our Jared Goff groups, where he is captain, we are going to make sure that the lineup builder includes at least 2 of his pass catchers between everybody on his team that catches passes. I am not going to include the running backs in these groups. Now, if they end up in the lineups with Jared Goff, that's fine with me. I'm just not going to force the lineup builder to put them in there. So Higbee obviously got the big Q by his name. Pay attention 90 minutes before lock. If he's out, then Gerald Everett becomes a great value on this slate, but we don't know yet, so I can't exactly tell you as I'm recording this on Sunday afternoon during the late games at halftime. Everett was the other one that I spoke of. He's much cheaper. 4,800 in the flex as opposed to 6,200 in the flex. I will include both of them if they're both healthy in that group. I will also include the kicker in the captain group with the quarterback, as kickers are more correlated with quarterbacks, as most people are willing to admit. And Josh Reynolds at 2,800 seems to be too cheap to me, at least based on how many snaps he's playing. Like 50 of 60 snaps, 45 of 60 snaps each of the last 3-4 games. As long as he's out there at this price, you look at his game log, you're never going to get like 8, 9, 10 targets from him, but that's not what we need in order for him to kind of pay off for us at this salary on a showdown slate. If he catches 3-4 balls for 40 or 50 yards, it's an absolute smash play at 2,800, not only because of what he's scoring, but because of what he allows you to get into your lineup. So he's going to be in that group as well. And if he happens to find his way into the box, it's Yahtzee. You're going to crush everything. The other group that we're going to build in our quarterback group, and I'm going to talk about this from both sides. If we have Jared Goff at captain, I'm going to build a second group that says we need at least one of the offensive players on the other team. This is going to include Nick Foles. It's going to include Allen Robinson. It's going to include Graham. Every reasonable offensive player. I want Mooney, yes, is going to be in that group. I won't include the kickers here. I might actually build other groups that say if I have a quarterback at captain, I'm not going to allow, or not going to allow, I'm going to decrease the other team's quarterback by like 10 or 20% on his projection, just so I don't get a massive amount of quarterback on quarterback. I mind it less when one of them is the captain. It's when they're in the flex that I don't just want two quarterbacks in flex all the time together. And when you're building 150 lineups. Now, look, I'm not expecting you guys to all be rolled to be able to play the $10 tournaments at 150 lineups each, or play two of those like I tend to do sometimes on these Monday night or Thursday night slates, where I'm making 300 unique lineups, putting them in the big tournament, and then putting the 151 through 300 in the secondary tournament to try and differentiate my lineups, because all I want to do is take down one tournament. I'm not trying to take down both with the same lineups. I'm trying to differentiate and have myself like a 50K night or a 40K night for 3K invested. So like, that's what I'm doing. I understand that not everybody else rolled the way that I'm bankrolled. So what I'm suggesting is that if you've never used a lineup optimizer before, if you've never mass multi-entered, even if you're doing it with 20 max in the $3 tournament, or if you're using the mini max games, the 5 cent, 10 cent, 50 cent games, that's the best way to learn if you have the skills to do MME, if it's something that suits you. I know that a lot of people have contacted me, both here on the YouTube comments as well as on Twitter and in our Discord. Jump down below, join the Discord if you haven't already. It's a great place to surround yourself with players that are trying to get better every single day. And during football season, it really is popping. During basketball season, right around lock, it really gets going too. I've heard from a lot of people that, you know, I've never done mass multi-entry before. I'm learning how to use an optimizer, and a couple people have taken down the minimax so far in the last 3-4 weeks for like 8K, one for 10K. So it's great to see that people are trying this out. And if you don't have the skills for it at $15 to enter 150 10-cent lineups, you find out for a very low price. So I think it's a skill that people need to learn how to use. The other thing that I need to talk about, one, Allen Robinson is really good. He gets a ton of service. He's a monster around the goal line. The Rams do have a shutdown cornerback in Jalen Ramsey, somebody who can minimize the efficiency or the overall statistics of somebody who does line up on the other side of him. And I don't think that the Bears are going to be able to get Robinson away from him. It doesn't mean that Robinson can't have a big day. I think that it's going to give me a little bit of pause in how I'm going to utilize him on this slate because of the price that he is versus the price that other players are, but only in the captain spot. I'm going to have him in flex in a lot of different lineups, but I'm probably not going to utilize Allen Robinson all that much in captain based on that. Now, if you think that you want to spend 15K on him while he's being guarded by Ramsey, go ahead. If you do, I suggest that you tie Nick Foles to him, because if Allen Robinson has himself a really big day, a la Devontae Adams on the main slate on Sunday, who piled up like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. If he really rolls, if he has a monster day, then Nick Foles is probably going to come along for the ride. It's not likely that Allen Robinson's going to put up like 150 with 2 touchdowns and Nick Foles has like 170 with 2 touchdowns on the day. So if Robinson has a massive day, you can assume that Nick Foles also had a massive day, but it doesn't necessarily work in the other direction, although it certainly can. If Nick Foles does have a big day, Allen Robinson can have a big day, but it's not necessary that he would be a tournament winning play if Foles is the play at captain. We're going to build that same group for Foles that I talked about with Goff at captain. We're going to do that same thing whether we're playing any one of the pass catchers. If you've got Graham at captain for the Bears, we're going to be putting Foles into those lineups. If you've got Mooney at captain, we're going to be including Nick Foles in those lineups. And it might be a good move, in my opinion, to try and figure out who's not going to catch Ramsey. The Rams defense is good, and the Bears offense is kind of sketchy a little bit. So possibly including more Rams defense, possibly making sure that you're overweighting what you project the field to be in your flex or in your captain spot on these non-Jalen Ramsey shadowed wide receivers for the Bears would probably be a sharp choice. Same thing goes for the Rams pass catchers. If you've got Cooper Kupp, I said if you've got Cooper Kupp in your captain spot, make sure that Jared Goff is in that lineup as well. We're going to build a group for that. We'll talk about it in just a second. Same thing with Bobby Trees. Robert Woods has been pretty darn good this year, although his volume has fluctuated from week to week. He's been extremely good, and with 4 touchdowns through 6 weeks on a pretty good offense, albeit against a solid defense here, is going to be in play for you. Same thing if you're going to go cheap and you want to just try and jam everybody in with Reynolds at captain. Make sure that Goff is in that lineup and whichever tight end that you're going to build as well. The last group that I always build for both teams, you might break this one this week, I understand, with 2 somewhat turnover prone quarterbacks and offenses that can stall out, let's say, in the red zone. If you want to go and make sure that you've only got one of these 4, group of 4, that's fine. If you say, you know what, I'm okay having 2 defense, or not 2 defense, but 1 defense and 1 kicker in a lineup, it's okay to say at most, you build separate groups for this. You build one group that says you want at most 2 of both defenses and both kickers from the same game. Then you'd build another group that says at most 1 of the defenses and at most 1 of the kickers in any single lineup. So you could have 2 of them if that's the way that you think the game's going to go. I typically limit to just 1 from each game. Let's go take a look over at Fantasy Labs and take a look at some of the rules that I make. Very easy to make overarching rules. I hope that you guys can see this. If not, kind of zoom in a little bit. These are all the rules that I just talked about with you, and we just kind of build them into the lineup builder. We're going to pair a captain quarterback with at least 2 of his wide receiver, tight ends, and kickers from the same team. We're going to pair a captain quarterback with at least 1 quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or tight end from the opponent. We're going to pair the captain wide receivers with 1 quarterback. We're going to pair tight ends who are a captain with their quarterback, and we're going to limit to at most 1 defense or kicker from the same game. If you want to make sure that you, let's say, okay, I don't want, if I have a running back, if you have a captain running back, that you say, okay, I want exactly 0 defense from the opposing team, that's fine too. If you want to make sure that if you have captain running back, if you've got Montgomery at your captain, or if you're rolling the dice on Brown or Akers or Darrell Henderson, that you don't want the Bears defense in those lineups because they're very negatively correlated, the running backs on team A versus the defense on team B, that's fine too. You can build that rule in. It won't make any lineups with that. One group that I'm going to talk to you about, and I build a lot of player correlations and player groups into my showdown and main slate lineups, is that one, I'm going to make sure that I have at most 1 of the Rams running backs in flex. Now, this is different from captain. I'm making sure that they're not in captain for this group, right? You have to designate whether you want Darrell Henderson captain or Darrell Henderson regular, which would be flex. I don't want 2 Rams running backs in the flex. I'm okay if I have 1 at captain and another one in flex just to get the points. But I'm going to do that, and we're going to apply these settings. We're going to run 150 lineups just so you guys can kind of see what it looks like. And I do need to remind you on every one of these videos that it's never as simple as go to a site that is a lineup optimizer, log in, run 150 lineups, download them and upload them to the sites and enter and just start printing money. That's not how this works. There's a lot of things that you need to do. There's a lot of times that you have to run this and make sure that you have the allocations that you want, the rules that you want, so that you can make the lineup optimizer dance in whatever way you want to make it dance. Now, as I said before, I tend to limit the quarterbacks if they're not running quarterbacks. I've got Jared Goff and Nick Foles maxed out at 8% in the captain. You can see that they only have 8% of them. Here's a bunch of the lineups that it built on this first run. I'm going to spend a lot more work on this before the game kicks off on Monday night. It ended up with David Montgomery as our number 1 captain, Allen Robinson as our number 2, Cooper Kupp, Jared Goff, and you can check any one of these lineups by clicking that player, and it shows you these are all your Jared Goff lineups. You can see there are 12 of them, right? And in those lineups, we have exactly the rules that we've set up. Jared Goff with 2 of his pass catchers, at least 1 player on the other team, all the way down. You do this to get back to your list here. That's about it. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. Best of luck on Monday Night Football. I hope that you guys had a great main slate. The review video, the recap video from week 7 will be on the 2nd channel. Make sure that you go sub to that. Look for another video right here.
He's a legend.